All right, and with that, again, we're thrilled to have everybody joining us this evening. And like I said, our goal is to answer all the questions that you may still have around the course selection process for your incoming sixth grader in the fall. So, Miss Mez, anything you want to add before we open it up to questions?
I don't think so. I think the biggest thing that's just a reminder is that when you log in, it's into student access and not family access. I know especially for fifth graders, that's going to be a super new process for them. And so just making sure you're going through those instructions. If it looks like you can't make changes and you're only seeing some core classes in there, it's probably because it's switched somehow to family access. So just make sure it's student access. I would say that's the biggest question we're getting. But happy to answer questions.
And let me just say one more thing before we get to the question, because I have let a few other folks on. We are recording this session, and I will also say if you were not able to attend our in-person night earlier this week, I think that my days are kind of running together, but I believe that was
Monday.
I was going to say Tuesday. Monday. If you were not able to attend on Monday, all materials that were shared that evening, PowerPoints from all of our core classes are now available on our website. And we also sent an email out today with the link for this session and also the links for those PowerPoint slides for our core classes from the presentation on Monday. So that can also be a resource for you all as well. Okay, I'm done talking for a little bit. Let's open it up to any questions, either in the chat or here.
Yeah, actually, Jeff, I had a thought that maybe we want to start, maybe kind of go by subject, just
Okay,
math
sure.
and science, and and then we can do electives and stuff. So let's maybe start with math questions. It looks like there's one in the chat too. I got to pull that up. So don't worry about the question is around kind of the numbering or the lettering that shows up in Skyward when you're inputting different classes like KM 601, KM 602, KM 702. That is just the way that the system records things. So 6, when it starts with a 6, that means it's sixth grade. When it starts with a 7, it starts, or it's for seventh grade. So that's more of an our side thing. It's not anything that you guys need to worry about. It's just how it's coded. Other math questions?
Hello. I'm not sure if you can hear me well.
We can hear you. Yes, you're
okay.
Good.
So regarding specifically or other topics, what if I chose a level, like it's kind of advanced level for my kid, and then like down the road, I felt that they're very overwhelmed and that was not the right spot for them. Is there a way to go back, like one level back, or they have to stick to whatever we chose at the beginning?
Yeah, there are some, and especially with the new math pathway now, with like the new 1-2 math pathway, which is great. It kind of depends. We don't move kids lightly. We move kids down at the beginning of a school year, especially on the recommendation of their teacher. Usually they are given a pre-assessment in pretty much every math class. And based on that, either they demonstrated knowledge that shows they should advance, or they're demonstrating knowledge. If they're in advanced class, they're demonstrating knowledge that maybe a different pathway would be right for them. So that's one way that we'll kind of know at the beginning of the school year kind of what pathways look like. Once you start to get a little bit farther, let's say it's like the middle of seventh grade and they're in a compacted pathway and they're really struggling, the only way we can really move them back would be potentially to move them to the grade level, because they will have already taken, basically they can't retake a class they've already taken. So I would say it's possible, but it's not something that is common or that we do lightly. We really try at the beginning of each year to make sure students are where they should be, so that they're not having to transition and either missing content or having to redo content that they may have already done.
And I would just add to that also I think that when we go about putting together the master schedule in the spring this year for the fall, I mean, we really try and be that process is student driven as it can be, meaning that we want to offer the classes that students are interested in taking. And so if we create a master schedule that way, and then it just doesn't allow for a lot of movement between classes just based on class sizes and the number of different sections that we offer for a specific class. And so each fall, I mean, we will certainly have conversations, and we'll probably identify some students that are maybe very misplaced, either way, either too low or too high. I would also say if you're choosing to an advanced math pass for your student, that it also shouldn't be easy, if that makes sense. Like there should be a little bit, I mean, if they're advancing, there should be a little bit of a struggle with some of the curriculum. So I kind of go back to Miss Mez. It's really we want to make sure that everybody is appropriately placed where they are, and I think we do a good job of that. Like I said, there's always a couple of outliers that we need to correct in the first in the first couple of weeks of school. But I would say once we're kind of in through September, it makes it can be difficult to change. Not that it's never been done, but we like to have everybody set and making connections and relationships with their teachers, particularly in that first month. And so to move somebody then starts that process all over, which I don't think is great either. So it can be done, but we would, I guess, prefer not to, except in some pretty extreme cases. So I hope that answers your question.
So looking at some of the other questions in the chat that came up. So the math curriculum, I don't think they specifically state all the math curriculum, but on the school district website under academics, if you look under like the math pathways, they will talk about that's where it'll go through what the curriculum is for CC7-8. And yes, if there's a 6th grade student who is taking CC7-8, they will be mixed with 7th graders. So that's something to be prepared for. The test that I was talking about, the pre-assessment, that's administered in the first few weeks of school. Every teacher will do it a little bit differently on a different day. And it's not anything that students need to prepare for. It's not something they study for or anything. It's really just for teachers and students to get an understanding of what content is actually going to be covered as the year goes on. So they're not necessarily even expected to know exactly all the content that's on that pre-assessment, because those are the subjects that they cover throughout the year. So that's why if a student kind of blows that pre-assessment out of the water, that shows they kind of know the concepts that are going to be in that math class and shows that they should be moved. So that will be teacher dependent on when that happens. How many subjects in all are you selecting? What is mandatory and elective? So the basics are the 4 core classes. So your math, your science, language arts, and social studies. Of those 4 core classes, you're going to choose 3 you're going to choose the math pathway, the science pathway, and then either standard language arts or advanced language arts. Social studies is consistent across the board for everybody. So that's already going to be preloaded into your students' schedule because there's no choice to make there. And then PE and health will also be loaded in there. And then you need to choose electives. So you're making essentially 5, if I can do the math, 4 choices, I think, around that. So the next question around math is, what are the size percentage of the groups with 3 levels of math? How many are in pathway A, B, C? Honestly, we don't know yet, because this is a whole new math pathway system that they are implementing this coming year for this incoming group of 6th graders. So in terms of what we've seen in the past, I would say the majority of students take kind of the CC6, which I think is math pathway A, usually in 6th grade, and then maybe make a choice to advance in 7th grade. I would say that would probably be the majority. And then, Math Pathway C is a pretty high level advancement. And so we have a handful of students that do that every year. But I would say Math Pathway A, the kind of standard start, is probably the majority, again, with more choosing next year to advance if they didn't advance this year.
I see a question about electives. We can get to that in 1 second. I see, Yosef, you have had your virtual hand raised here for a couple minutes, so I want to get to you. Yosef, go ahead. Are you there? I feel like I'm on like talk radio or something right now. Yusuf, are you out there? If you are, go ahead. If not, you can come back to us when you're when you're ready. But I at least wanted to recognize that I saw your hand raised. Question about electives. If there is a lot of demand for a class, say digital photography, is there like a lottery system as to which students get into the class? I would say that, those are all things that I don't know yet. I would say that we would take a look at, if possible, maybe adding another section, possibly if the demand is high enough. Photography is a trimester elective, and so typically that would mean that anywhere between like 90 and 100 students would need to sign up for that, and then that would rotate through the three trimesters. And so if the need was out there, we could take a look at adding another, but also take a look, see if there are students that be taken that class before, and then we would look for another elective for them that would be more appropriate. So I think that those students who have been interested in photography, my experience has been that they have been able to get in one of the trimesters during the year.
And I'll just say that's why it's really important to put alternates too, so we can see the interest of classes, even if it might not be a first choice for a student, and then it allows us to have some flexibility there too. There's a question around, is there a practice test kids can take to determine the appropriate path for math? Yes, online, again, on the ISD website under the academics, under math curriculum, there is a CC6 mastery assessment test that isn't a requirement or anything like that, but that might be a good indication to have your student do, just to kind of see where they are with the I'm still learning the language, what would normally be CC6, but like Math 1, to see kind of where they are with those concepts. But that again is on the district website under academics and under the math pathways. And that's a good thing to do. And the scores, you don't need to submit the scores to anybody or anything like that. It's just for your knowledge and for your students' knowledge.
Looks like another elective question. If a student selects a year-long elective, do I still need to enter trimester electives as alternatives? What do you?
Yeah, I would.
Want them to? Okay.
I mean, if your student is choosing a music class, they're going to be in the music class, barring some extenuating circumstance that conflicts with something else. That's pretty rare, and we do everything we can to try to get kids into music, and especially in 6th grade. But it wouldn't hurt just to add in the trimester electives, just to have them in there.
Another question: do you suggest checking with my current students' teacher about their level to help with the math pathways selection? I would say yes, absolutely.
Yes, I would, and give them grace, as I'll probably be answering lots of those questions, would be my guess. But yeah, that would be a good thing. And I know I just want to acknowledge too, I know it's really hard because elementary report cards haven't come out yet, and they come out after you have to make your choices. So yes, I would reach out to your teacher if you can, and also know that come April, we're going to have an opportunity for students to log back in and see what their choices are. It's not going to be their schedule. It's not going to be exactly what they're in or anything like that, but they'll at least be able to see their choices. And so if you decided, yes, we want to do advanced math next year, and then you've had conversations with teachers, report card came out, and you're like, I don't know that they're ready for that, there'll be a process to be able to submit to make changes like that. So you will have an opportunity to go back and look and make changes in the spring.
Okay, another question about math. Is it up to parents to decide what level we think the student should be? My son's teacher suggested a higher level, but I'm not sure which pathway to select. I would say yes. I mean, ultimately, it is your decision. I think that everybody on this call, you know your student best, and so I think it's I think gathering as much information you can from their current elementary teacher, and then, like I said, you ultimately know your student best. And if you feel like an advanced pathway is best, for them as a sixth grader, then I think obviously that's a decision you need to make as a family. So ultimately, it is your decision.
Mhm. One thing to consider,
Yeah.
I was just going to add one thing to consider that with that too is, does your student like math or like the advanced course that you're thinking about? Do they enjoy it? Does it come easily to them? Do they want to advance? So just some other things to think about. You certainly don't have to go the route that the teacher says they recommend.
All right, another math question. What is the difference between path A and path B in terms of concept coverage? Are all the topics covered in math B, but there would be condensed or faster on certain topics and maybe some that are skipped?
Well, math 1-2, so math pathway B doesn't exactly have a curriculum yet, so I can't specifically state that I know for sure. Generally, though, with the advanced courses, they do cover them like 99% of the same concepts, but they do go at a faster pace. So pace is generally the main difference, and with a bit more depth of understanding or expectation of depth of understanding of those concepts.
Another math question.
Good, because that's what the topic we're at.
That's right. Yeah. I only deviated once for electives. Can students choose basic math now and advance later in 7th, or no change? I would say I would reference the math PowerPoint that we posted from Tuesday, or I'm sorry, from Monday night's presentation that talks about that specific subject. My understanding is one of the nice things about the change in the pathways is that there are some more points at which you could make that change compared to previous years. Is that your understanding as well, Ms. Smith? Yeah.
Yep. So that's kind of been the same as that you can make the choice in 6th grade. And then after when we do this next year in 6th grade, there'll be a choice to advance again in 7th grade. But once it's chosen, by the time a student goes into 7th grade, then it's chosen. So you have the choice now, and then you'll have the choice in spring of 6th grade as well. So is Eureka Math the math curriculum for pathway A, B, and C? No, it's Common Core is what it's called, kind of in terms of the curriculum. Eureka, I believe, is solely for elementary. I could be wrong, but it's not. I know we don't use Eureka Math in middle school.
If you missed the open house on Monday, yes, you can find all of the electives listed with some descriptions. Those are available on our website. I will do my best to put a link in the chat to that. The entire course selection packet is available online. So let me
and it should have been emailed to you as well, with the email that's listed in Skyward. And that would have been emailed a week ago or so from Nicole Smith, who's our registrar. Okay, let's see. So I see the question about languages. I'll come back to that. Okay. I'm just trying to make sure I don't have any. Okay, so I don't see any more math questions specifically. We can certainly go back if needed, but okay, so kind of going around electives. Will languages be available next year since it's not available this year to incoming sixth graders? So we will have, so Spanish 1, which is the only high school level language that we offer, is only available to eighth graders. And as far as I know, that will always be the case because it is a high school level class. We do have a languages take 3 class, which is kind of like an introduction to 3 different languages, which has been a new class for us this year that's been really popular. And that will be available for 7th graders and then 8th graders as well. But yes, unfortunately, we don't have any language options for 6th graders. Registration deadline is at February 28th. So that's 2 days after we get back from break.
And I just put in the chat the link to on our website. If you go to academics, if you click on academics, it'll take you to broken down by each grade level for the information asked about the electives, and really for any course we offer, you can find that there.
Yep. And so then for band, band is more of the traditional band with the variety of brass instruments and percussion and woodwinds, things along those lines. It would be awesome if we had a rock band. If your son really loves to play, which it sounds like he does, there might be some opportunities to get him hooked into band in some way with Mr. Dungy, our band teacher. I don't know if it would work to have him be in band every day in terms of that's his elective. That would be a conversation we'd have to have with Mr. Dungy around what that would look like. Yep, photography is just 1 trimester. So if you're choosing like photography, then your kiddo would be choosing at least 2 more, or would be choosing 2 more electives and then alternates for the other trimesters. And that the electives are listed in the course selection packet that he just linked to. Okay, so good question around an IEP. So the IEP teams from the elementary schools and our school will be meeting if they haven't already. I know they were doing it, I think, pretty soon. And through those transition meetings, it'll be determined based on, your students' minutes, where they qualify, kind of what they need. So that would be a conversation to have with your IEP case manager to see what the recommendations are that they've been given from our team, if they've had those conversations. I will say that depending on the minutes and kind of where they qualify, sometimes study skills, which is a year-long elective, sometimes that is required for some students on an IEP because that's where some of their specially designed instruction is served and some of their minutes are served. But that, yeah, it's obviously IEPs are very individualized. And so it just kind of depends on where they're served and what minutes they need.
Let's see. How do I control my kids' academic performance during the year? I'm assuming you're asking about like, how do you monitor like if they have missing assignments or just progress in class, and that can be done through Canvas. Is probably the easiest way to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And,
Canvas is our, just in case people haven't heard of it, Canvas is what the middle and high schools use in order to, turn in work, track assignments. They have calendars for due dates, things like that. So Canvas is something that students will have a login for, and then you as a parent will have an observer login that you can use, and you'll be able to monitor, like I said, missing assignments, email teachers, things like that.
Yep, and we will, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but on curriculum night in September, before kind of the traditional curriculum night, we will offer kind of a Canvas crash course for parents that we will also be recording and posting. So we did that this year, and like Ms. Mez said, Canvas is kind of relatively new, so that might be helpful just to learn how to navigate to be able to keep up with your students' progress. Electives question. How would we enroll, or how would one request to enroll a student in study skills if it was suggested by their current counselor? You can either email me or Ms. Mez or Ms. Williams and let us know that you would like your student to be in that class. And no, it does not need to be for a year. In all honesty, I mean, some students do like to take it for a full year just because it works for them and it's a space for them to maybe help with some organizational skills, or for some students, they just like a place to get some homework done during the day. So they might, have less to do at home, or if they go home, it just doesn't happen for whatever reason. But I would say in the spirit of that class is that we also have students that may only need it for a semester. And it's like, hey, we need to kind of work on this one specific thing. And then if you can demonstrate that you're able to do that, then we can move you to an elective that might be more appealing to them later on in the year. So it kind of goes both ways.
And just to be clear on that though, too, is that it is, it's more than just a study hall. They do many lessons around organization, executive functioning, things like that. And depending on how the master schedule gets built and how it all gets put together, it is possible that if a student does leave study skills, that it might, for another trimester elective, that they might then have to change some other classes in their schedule in order to make that change. Because it all depends on the puzzle of what the master schedule ends up looking like and what classes are available, what period.
Another electives question, Ms. Mez, you want to talk about, are they selecting one alternative for each trimester or two, or just in general? I guess it depends on what electives they're.
Yeah, I mean, especially for trimester electives, I would put in 2 to 3 alternates just to be on the safe side. I mean, yeah, I would say 2 to 3.
Okay. Another math question. What is the advantage of selecting advanced path or skipping content now? Does it help in high school or college? Good question. I would say a lot to, it's all going to depend on your student, and if you feel like they are ready for more of a challenge. I will say we did mention this, I know, on Monday night too, that depending on how quickly families want their student to advance, at some point in the high school, like, you do run out of courses to take. So I think that it just depends on what your goals are as a family, and what interests your student has. Like Ms. Mez said earlier, I mean, if they really like math and they seem to pick those concepts up pretty quickly and feel like they would be bored in the class unless they're advancing, then maybe that's something for you. If that's not the case, then maybe not. Let's see.
Yeah,
Where are we?
Miss the Music open house. Is there a list of instrument choices listed somewhere for band and orchestra? I believe those should be listed in the course selection packet. Under like orchestra, we'll list, I mean, it's bass, cello, violin, and viola for orchestra, and then band will have 2, so it would be woodwinds or brass beginner, and they'll list the different instruments in both of those course selection descriptions under those electives. The same electives be available for 7th grade if we do not choose them for 6th grade. Some will be. Electives are always contingent on the teachers that we have to teach them, and then interest. And so there are a few more that are available to 7th and 8th graders, and then there's some just for specific to 6th graders. So it just kind of depends. If you have a specific one that you're interested in, we can try to answer that more specifically.
Can my students select band as an elective in 7th grade if they do not select band in 6th grade? And the answer to that is absolutely. We have several students that do that each year. I think it does maybe take a little bit of coordination with Mr. Dungy regarding placement and things like that, but certainly we have students that decide they want to take an instrument, maybe even as an 8th grader. So that's totally fine.
The one thing to consider would be they would be in, unless they've played outside of school, they would be in a class. They'd be in the beginning class, so the with mostly 6th graders.
True, good point. Yep. I am not sure about what band is offered at the high school. I don't have a great answer or any answer for that question. I'm not sure what the different levels are there.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know either. I don't think it's as common to start in high school versus in middle school, but I could absolutely be wrong.
Do you want to talk about PE waivers, Ms. Mez? Can you request a pass from PE class if your child is doing outside competitive sports?
No, not for the sake of, sports or competitive. If it's a high level competition where they need to leave school early most days in order to go train, then that would be, there's a specific kind of process that we would do for that. We've got a lot of students that do a lot of high level competitive sports, so it would depend on the specific need in that situation. But we don't have we generally don't waive PE and health unless in really specific circumstances, or unless a student needs a support class and want to take a music, for example. That would be when PE can be waived.
For advanced science, I heard that 8th grade biology will be on the high school transcript. If taken, is there an option to have the grades taken off of the transcript? Now, this is, I think, flip-flop since my Skyline days. So I'll let you handle this one, Ms. Smith, so I don't get it mixed up.
Yeah. So yes, any high school level course that is taken by a student in the middle school will be on their high school transcript. That grade will affect their GPA. But students have until really when they graduate or by their senior year to request that course is removed. The kicker is that you just have to make sure they have enough credits in that subject in order to still graduate. So, for example, science, I think, is at least 2 or 3 credits. So as long as they've taken enough science courses where they don't need that credit from middle school to graduate, then they can get it taken off, and then it doesn't affect their GPA.
If I choose a year-long elective, can I pick up some trimester electives too? Unfortunately, no, you cannot. So if you're taking a year-long elective, then you have your 4 core classes, you have PE and health, and then you have your year-long elective. How do we opt for support classes? We'll just make this simple. Send me an email. I'll put it in the chat here in just a second. Is there high demand? If there is high demand for a particular music choice, what determines which kids get in? I would say that I know both orchestra and band will be making sure that students are kind of appropriately placed in those first, maybe week and a half of school. And if students need to be placed in a different level or whatever, then that happens. I am not aware of a year where we have had to turn students away from wanting to be in either orchestra or band. So it'll just be I would say 98% of everybody is appropriately placed. But like I said, with anything, our music folks will know in the first week or so if there needs to be a change made there. How do students' middle school grades affect their high school college choices? Well, go ahead.
So I would say it's colleges and even the high school. Well, let me start with college. Colleges do not look at middle school grades unless they're taking a high school level class in middle school. They're not going to be looking at the student's middle school academic record. What in high school they might look back, like if a student is struggling or something like that, they might look back to middle school grades, especially like their first couple years, just to see if there's a pattern in that way. but beyond that, it doesn't affect their high school GPA or anything like that. I would say what affects high school choices more so is going to be what choices they make in middle school and kind of what trend that lens for them. But it's more about like the course, not the grades.
Yeah, and I would also say just the development of, I'd say what would track more would be like the development of good, study habits and things like that you can carry over into high school. We have a senior in high school in my own home right now, and I can tell you that the middle school is not part of any college process at all, unless, like we talked about in one of the earlier questions, they've chosen to take a high school level course as maybe an eighth grader. But other than that, it's not part of the process at all. Do the credits for high school classes taken in eighth grade transfer?
Yes.
I'm assuming they to the high school. Yes. Yep. The answer is yes.
So for example, if a student took Spanish 1 in eighth grade, then that counts as their first year of their language credit. And then they can go into Spanish 2 as a ninth grader. And then that's their 2 years required for their language credit.
Can I choose the order of fitness and health classes in the registration process? I'm sorry to say, no, you cannot. Can a student switch from band to orchestra if they don't get placed in the section instrument they want? Possibly. But we are, like I mentioned at the beginning of this, just for consistency's sake, and I mean, we want students to obviously be placed where they feel like they're going to be, successful and happy. But it is important to me that our teachers are able to start beginning to make relationships with students and creating community within the classroom. And so there will become a point in the year that there are no more schedule changes. So maybe. Anything to add to that, Ms. Mez?
Yeah, I guess just in schedule changes in general, there's always going to be some exceptions, but once a student, especially for really for all their classes, once they're placed in them, as long as they're appropriately placed, we really can't make schedule changes frequently, especially with trimester electives. It's an opportunity to learn something new. It's an opportunity to grow. We really only change schedules if there's been a misplacement in some capacity, or a conflict with another student. Like there's some exceptions, but there's not really a process of, I just don't like this class, so I want to change, that we're able to change.
And I will just say too, around trimester electives, just to sort of temper everybody's expectations, that nobody will get like all three of their number one sort of choices. So my philosophy is, and I think at the middle school level particularly, that one of the benefits of having trimesters is that it is not as long as a semester, and we would like our students to be exploring and trying different electives and trying things that may or may not be something that they think of, is of interest to them, but at the end of the trimester, it might be, or it may not, and that's good learning either way for the future. So just a little caveat about the electives. Is there any other language but Spanish? We do have a trimester elective called Take 3 that does dabble in some other languages, but as far as like a year-long course, no, we only offer Spanish. I logged into my son's email and it told me when I logged in successfully, but the resource was not available yet.
So Angela, I'm wondering if you're trying to log in to select his courses, that's going to be through student access, not his email Outlook account. So in the email that was sent out from Nicole Smith about a week or so ago, it had the instructions of how students can log into their student access account with their username and their password, but it's different from the email account.
I'm continuing just to drop the link into our website for those folks that would like to access that. If a student starts with Math Path D, does all the middle school math grades go on to the high school onto the high school transcript?
So if I'm remembering correctly, and I can try to pull it up to be clear. So that would be CC8 Algebra 1 as a sixth grader. And so the Algebra 1 is a high school graduation requirement. So that kind of gets checked off. But then from there, when they take geometry and then Algebra 2, then yes, those two courses in particular will be part of their high school transcript.
What is the max number of students in a class? I would say that's a good question. For sixth grade, I would say we would like to have it between anywhere from, I think this year we're anywhere between like 27, 28 and 34, 35, which gets to be a little bit big. I'd like to not go above 30 or 31. In some cases we need to. I would say if as an eighth grader, not that applies really here, but if you're taking say a higher level course like biology, that might be a little bit bigger in the kind of the upper 30 range for some of those classes. And like I said, it's hard to know right now until the course selection process is done, and then we'll see really how many students are requesting classes. Kind of determines how that breakout happens, and it's just a little bit of we just have to sort of see. But that's a generally I would say that's the range. Let's see.
Okay. So for Math Pathway D, because that is contingent on kind of the assessment that they'll take in their Merlin course with their Merlin teacher, I would say just select your choice aside from Math Pathway D, and then we will be notified about which students should be placed in CC8 Algebra 1. And then that's something that we can, if for some reason they're misplaced or whatever, that's something that we would adjust in August.
There was a question around buses. I just direct message that individual to send me an email. If the question is around like routes and how do you know which bus your student is going to take, that happens in August. Our transportation will list all of the routes, and then I would say probably the first 2 weeks of school we have quite a few parent volunteers, teachers, administration, counselors, everybody sort of all hands on deck, making sure that students get on the correct bus going home. So certainly feel free to send me an email, but if it's around which route or how do you know that will all be released by the transportation department in August, and we'll link to that information on our website and also in our weekly bulletins.
How many total credits should you have for requested courses? Yes, you should have 6. That's correct. And for Mint, I'm kind of thinking back to about Math Pathway D, kind of what I'm reversing what I said. If you have the option for your Merlin student to choose CC8 Algebra 1, then please do, because then we can compare. But I guess I didn't think that was an option that you could choose in student access right now. I thought we had to manual input that, but if you have the option to choose it, then please do put that. But again, that's only for Merlin students.
Okay, I am showing that we are all caught up in the chat. So we have about 15 minutes left here before 7 o'clock. So please, if there are more questions, please continue. Like I said at the beginning, I am recording this session, and so we will post this tomorrow to our PCMS website. If there's things that you missed, or maybe somebody at home wasn't able to make it, or whatever, this will be available as a resource.
Yes, once if you do your selections today and then you go in next week, you can still make changes up until the 28th. Yep, absolutely. Okay, what percent of students end up choosing 2 advanced courses? That's a good question. I'm not very good with percentages and being able to estimate those accurately. I mean, I would say it's a pretty small percentage that would choose all 3. We haven't really had many questions about science, but if you were to choose advanced for all 3, that would mean Earth and Space Science, math pathway B or C, and then advanced language arts. I would say it's more common probably to have like advanced language arts with advanced science, or advanced language arts with one of the advanced math pathways. But we do have a handful that would do all 3. Don't know if that helps.
And I would just say that my recommendation has been, and I said the same thing on Monday night, if anybody was there in attendance, that I think that, you obviously, I've said this before tonight, that your students better than anybody. And I would say typically a student has, at least maybe at this age, maybe more of a passion for kind of the math, science route right now, or maybe they're more passionate about LA, and so the advanced language arts would be more appropriate. There, I think to choose all 3 coming in as a 6th grader is tough and a lot. So like I said, not that it can't be done, but my recommendation would be to maybe choose one right now that's more of an interest, or maybe 2 that are more of an interest, and then I think that leads to a better transition into middle school, speaking generally.
Mm-hmm.
What options do students have for after school activities? Are there any school programs? My son has gone to Mustang Club and looking for options. So we do not have anything that would be close to Mustang Club. We do not have any sort of like after school care or anything along those lines. I mean, we have 4 athletic seasons. We have clubs that will meet after school, probably only 1 day a week, and those will not get up and running until probably like that first week of October. I'd mentioned on Monday that we will do a survey of our students to see what interests are out there for clubs, and so which clubs are offered are kind of driven by that process, and if there's an advisor available. I would also say this year, and I would anticipate next year there will be after school help available. Right now we offer math after school help in math, language arts, and social studies, and then there is an activity bus for students to take home that on every day but Wednesday leaves about 4:15, and on Wednesdays leaves about 5:15. But we do not have anything that would be resembling Mustang Club per se.
What is an ASB card and how do you purchase one? Do you want to answer that, Jeff?
Yes. So if you want to participate in really anything at school, you do need to have an ASB card. And once we have kind of our, we used to call them links days. It's kind of back to business days where basically, because I'm in the same boat myself, it's like as a parent, it's like bust out the checkbook days. For lack of a better term, where I just feel like we're like paying for lots of stuff. So that will happen in August. It's all online, and you'll be able to go through and add whatever you feel like you need to your cart. And an ASB card can be one of those things.
But can you change from math pathway B to advanced later if we feel that they can pass it? that would then kind of come down to that pre-assessment that they take at the beginning of the year in that math pathway, in that course, to see what knowledge they know. There are some options depending, to take online geometry concurrently with algebra. So that is a way that, a student can advance later on. But I would say that we're always up, Miss Miranda and I are always up to have the conversation around what a student needs and what they're demonstrating their need is, and kind of trying to see how that could work. But we also, work in a system and a structure that, sometimes has some pretty particular parameters. So we would have to, it would be a case by case basis, in moving on math pathways once they're chosen.
Any criteria to follow for choosing advanced science and ELA classes? I mean, I would say if it's a passion and an interest of your student, then that might be the best fit. I would say I think our sixth grade science is awesome. It's a cool class, so I hate to see students sort of skip over that, but like I said before, your students better than anybody. If that's a passion of theirs, then that might be something they're ready for. Any other thoughts on that, Ms. Meth?
So I would just say for science and for language arts, looking at their SBA scores too is another kind of data point from how they did last year. In SBA, if they're level 3, level 4s in math and ELA, then advanced, you might want to consider that. Again, interest, what are their skills in those areas, especially for ELA, like do they like to write, do they like to read, what reading level are they at, do they voluntarily come up with ideas for writing and things like that. Those would all be partly things to consider, and then seeing the recommendations from their teacher too. So there's no requirements, only those kind of recommendations, and some of those can also be found on the district website too, under the academics, on things to be considering for that as well. Is there a chess club? Not an official one, but we do have board game club, and I know they play a lot of chess in board game club.
Yes, and I would also say that there has lately been some very robust games of chess going on during lunch. So board game club plays chess, and then also there's chess available during lunch. Let's see.
So implying that you can choose more advanced subjects coming in 7th grade. Would that work similarly compared to now? Yes, essentially. So the choices that will be able to be made for advancing in when a student is in 7th grade or going into 7th grade will be, another choice potentially around math, a choice around advanced language arts or grade level language arts. That's a choice every year. But once they pick their science for this year, then they're on the science pathway. Good question about Links Life. Do you want to take that one?
Yes, they it is by grade level, and they do roll up. The goal would be to have them stay with the same teacher for the 3 years that they are at PCMS.
So the incoming 6th graders are paired with 2 8th grade, usually 1 to 2 8th grade student leaders, and it's not individual. Those 8th grade students will have a group, probably between 8 and 10 6th graders that they're paired with, and they are paired together through the year. They do various activities kind of once or twice a month to kind of build some of those connections. It's not something where the 8th graders are taking them to their classes or things like that. It's usually during our Links Lifetime where they'll do an activity together, out in the hallway or something along those lines. And then our 6th graders eligible to be part of student council or equivalent. So what that looks like in middle school is our ASV or our leadership class. And only 7th and 8th graders are eligible for our leadership course.
I would also say though that there are Miss Fielden, our leadership teacher, we do some where like each Links Life will sort of elect a representative, and so there is some time where that's sort of more of like a student council type format. So that does happen, but for the ASB leadership class, like Ms. Smith said, it does need to be they need to be in 7th or 8th grade. Is lunch the same time for all 6th graders? It's a great question. This year, the answer to that is yes. And on February 16th of 2023, I have every intention of keeping that the same for next year. I will say that this year, all 6th graders ate a lunch, which on every day but Wednesday, I think starts at 11:20. And then 7th grade is split between A and B lunch. So it's all 6th grade and then kind of half the 7th grade. And then our B lunch is all 8th grade and then the other half of 7th grade. Yes, activity buses are available for students, sports clubs, after school help, whatever they're here for. After school, like I said, they run 4 days a week. So there's no activities or clubs or sports or anything on Fridays. But every other day of the week, on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, those activity buses leave about 4:15. And on Wednesdays, they leave about 5:15. Will lockers be used required? So lockers are an interesting, this is fascinating to me. Because every year, like everybody, I always hear that everybody they want to have a locker. And then I would say, since we've introduced one-to-one laptops for every student, I bet probably less than half of our students actually utilize their locker right now, even though everybody thought they wanted one at the beginning of the year, which is fine. So we do not require students to use their lockers. Everybody will be issued a locker, and I would say that we have students that maybe they visit their locker once a day, maybe they visit their locker between every period, like 5 or 6 times a day, and then we have some that do not visit it at all and just use their backpack, which they're able to have in classes, and they don't find that there's a need for them to use their locker. So it really is, I would say in those first couple of weeks of school, your student will develop whatever system works best for them, and that's fine. And I would also say in August, during our web days for incoming 5th graders, web stands for where everyone belongs, that we will have some stations for students to practice the locker combination. So I know that's something that I hear every year that students are a little bit anxious about, is about dealing with the lockers and getting them to open. So that'll happen in August, and we'll communicate that well ahead of time what that date is, but it'll be before obviously the first day of school. Okay, well, I think we are caught up. It is 7 o'clock. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So thank you to everybody for joining us this evening. Hopefully this was helpful. And if you joined late or you missed something, then like I said, we'll post this tomorrow on our website, and tell all your friends to watch it. So anyway, I appreciate everybody joining us. Thank you, Ms. Meserol. And like I said, we look forward to having your student at PCMS next year. So thank you, everybody, and have a great night. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.